Good afternoon, Minnesota Twins fans. My name is Seth Stoes of Twins Daily, twinsdaily.com, welcoming you to another episode of Twins Spotlight. It's been a couple of weeks. Frankly, I ended up getting the COVID, so wasn't exactly feeling the need to do these, but happy to be healthy and happy to get back to it here on 222. It's episode 17 of season 2. And I will bring on our guest here just shortly. Let's find out a little bit who that guest is going to be. Got to get my screens all right and figured out. So our guest for today is right-handed pitching prospect and 2021 draft pick Pierson Ohl. He was a 14th round pick just a year ago out of Grand Canyon University. Made just one appearance last year in the Florida Complex League. After throwing over 100 innings at college, and we will get a chance to get to know him. So without further ado, let's bring in the star of today's show, Pierson Ohl. Pierson, how are you?
Seth, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you doing this. So real quick for those listening, we are live on Twins Daily Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you have any questions you'd like to ask a pro athlete, feel free to leave those comments and we'll get to those. Otherwise, feel free to just listen and then we'll go from there. So Pierson, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're back, it looks like, at a college dorm or something. You back at school?
Yeah, I'm out visiting my brother right now. He's a right-handed pitcher for Grand Canyon, and my last week before I report to Fort Myers, and I thought I'd come visit him, so I just kicked him out of his room and borrowed it for the interview.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate him letting you do that. And let's just talk for a minute about your growing up a little bit. You grew up in Simi Valley, California, Southern California, I think just northwest of LA proper, so to speak. Tell us a little bit about your first baseball experiences, whether it's Little League or anything before that yet.
My first baseball experience that I can recall, I was 4 years old, and the first uniform I ever put on was a Chicago Cubs uniform, and I had a grin from ear to ear. I was just happy to be around the game, and like it meant so much to me then, and I didn't realize how far this game would take me in life, and here I am today, uh, just doing what I love and getting paid for it. So I'm literally living the dream.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about your high school ball. Did you play on some pretty good teams in Southern California? Obviously, Florida, some Texas, Georgia, and Southern California are kind of the hotbeds for baseball. So tell me a little bit about your high school career.
Yeah, my high school career, I went to a small private Christian school. I think we had like 500 in the entire student body, counting 7th and 8th grade. So the sample size was very small, but we produced some major talent from there. We had a catcher go to the University of Nebraska. We had 3 guys signed to go to Grand Canyon. We had a guy signed to go to University of Arizona. So like you said, the talent from California it's a lot. So no matter what high school you go to, there's always going to be big fish in every pond. And just being in that atmosphere really pushed me to become one of those guys that wants to go play at the next level. And I mean, iron sharpens iron, and yeah.
No, that's great. Before we talk about baseball, were you active in other sports, in other activities at I believe it's Grace Brethren High School in Simi Valley? Were you active in a lot of other either sports or other extracurriculars?
Growing up, I always played soccer in the off season. My dad
Okay.
was very smart about me stepping away from the game of baseball because, I mean, everyone knows it's not only a physical grind, but it's a mental grind. And being able to step away from the game and just clear your head from all the failure that goes on in the game. I played soccer competitively growing up, and it was nice and it was relaxing, and it was definitely a change of speeds. But when I got to high school, I kind of shut that down so I could focus on baseball and use those off seasons to I really enjoy myself. And I actually started volunteering at the Simi Valley Police Department my freshman year of high school, and I really enjoyed that, just getting to see that kind of work environment and how professional those people carry themselves. And It's really helped me stay disciplined throughout my, I guess, career. And then when I got to college playing for Coach Stankiewicz, it really helped me because he runs a tight ship, and I felt like I was able to hit the ground running.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, were you obviously you're drafted as pitcher? You pitched in college, but did you play other positions growing up, or were you one of those guys that I'm just a pitcher, I don't want to hit?
Oh no, I thought I was gonna be a shortstop growing up. I did not want to be a pitcher.
Oh,
Yeah, throughout high school, I mean, my freshman year I led off, and then after that I was the 2 or 3 hitter. And I mean, it's high school baseball, so I mean, no knock on high school hitters, but you don't have to be that good to perform pretty well. But I definitely thought that I was going to go somewhere to play shortstop, uh, and pitching was kind of like a fallback plan. But then as I got older, it it just became more natural to me, and uh, commanding the zone was something that I was good at, and we don't see that a lot in, I guess, the youth of today's world. They just want to throw everything as hard as possible, and it really just that's what caught the eye of college coaches. And when coaches start calling about pitching, it made me start thinking, well, maybe I can just be a pitcher and get to that next level. So I mean, here I am
well, I'd say
today.
to this point, that's worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking to Pierson Ohl, Twins pitching prospect, 2021 draft pick. Wanted to ask you a little bit about, your summer ball in youth, or I guess in high school ages. Were you on the national circuit, as I call it, the perfect games, area code games, things like that, or did you mainly just play like American Legion?
No, I flew under the radar in high school. I mean, I'm not a flamethrower now. I wasn't a flamethrower back then. So being in Southern California, I mean, there's the first picks overall come out of Southern California. I mean, that area code team I mean, they're all going to be draft picks at some point in their career, and they're all throwing mid 90s in high school. So that was definitely not me. I played for, I mean, one of the most influential people that I've had in my life in the game of baseball, Chucky Fick and the SoCal Giants. Um, that program really took me to the next level. Chucky pitched in the big leagues for the Cardinals and in the Astros, and I mean, he really had a great perspective on the game of baseball and was able to communicate to us as young guys that, hey, you should enjoy what you're doing, but also understand that, hey, it's time to get after it when you step across that line. And but yeah, I mean, to answer your question, no, I never went to a perfect game event. I didn't have any national ranking in high school. I was kind of that just fly under the radar, do everything really well, but not crazy good. But yeah.
So, with that as kind of the backdrop, and you mentioned that, 3 players from your school went to Grand Canyon. What was your recruitment process? Grand Canyon, I believe, just became a Division I school, say in the last half decade or decade or so. What was the recruiting process for you, and then what made Grand Canyon University the right choice for you?
So the recruiting process started for me. I was a sophomore in high school. We had our ace, Easton Lucas. He signed to go to Pepperdine, and being that Pepperdine was a driver 8-iron away from the beach, I was like, that'd be a sweet place to go. And so I went to their little prospect camp, and I did that. And I played well, but I mean, I was a sophomore in high school, so my tools weren't ready for college baseball. But I guess my pride thought I was ready. But after that, I kept going I went to a couple camps there, and I would go play with the Giants, and we'd go to these tournaments or whatever. And there's college coaches because, I mean, that team was insanely talented. So coaches were coming around all the time. But I played well my junior year and got an invite to the area code tryouts. And in SoCal, if you get an invite to that tryout, you're doing something right. And I mean, I'm sure, as you know, every college coach in America finds their way to an area code tryout at some point. And from there, I pitched well. And then I was contacted by several schools, and Grand Canyon being one of them. really built a relationship with Coach Wallace, made it out to Arizona to play in a few tournaments out here, got to visit the campus before they even had the magnificent stadium that we do now. So it was really a vision of where the program was going. And then why I chose Grand Canyon, the coaching staff is, I think, second to none in the country. I know it's going to be a little biased because everyone usually says that, but I mean, now that I've been around guys from different programs, I hear stories and I hear how some coaches acted under certain situations and whatnot. And I was just beyond thankful for how our coaches held themselves accountable to their decisions and carried themselves as men. And they really cared about their players on and off the field. And they develop men rather than just baseball players.
For sure. Again, that's Pierson Ohl, Twins pitching prospect out of Grand Canyon University. You mentioned the coaching staff. Andy Stankiewicz, the head coach there, obviously a long big league career, primarily I would say as a utility guy. Talk a little bit about him and, just kind of looking through the roster. There's other, I don't know if it's his son or so, but other sons of former big leaguers on the roster there as well.
Yeah, we got a bunch of guys that have played big league baseball and came across Andy Stankiewicz and said, "I want my kids to play for this guy." I mean
Sure.
I mean, if that's not a quality coach that big leaguers want their son playing for, then I don't know what is. Because I mean, we got Jacob Wilson last year, his dad had a 12-year big league career. Like, he did it all, and Jacob, from the second he was good enough to play college baseball, his father wanted him to come play for Andy because of how he can develop players and create a man of young boys at the time. So yeah, it's awesome.
And just talk about, and then your brother went there. I believe he's a year younger than you, maybe. Talk about the relationship there. Was it easy for you to want him to come there, or the last show I did, I had Gus Varland, is a year older than Louis Varland, who maybe you got a chance to meet at some point this off season. And he talked about how he wanted to go play anywhere but where his brother went, and they ended up playing together. And I mean, great relationship and stuff. So, what's the relationship between you and your brother and him actually going there to school with you?
I mean, my brother and I have been best friends forever. I know it's not a popular thing in today's world because, I mean, it just is what it is. But my mom did an incredible job raising us, and I have 6 other brothers and sisters that I would take a bullet for. I mean, we're all insanely close, and it's never not busy in the old house with 7 kids. But my brother, I mean, we've competed with and against each other our entire lives, and having the opportunity to go play Division I baseball together, I mean, let alone just play Division I baseball, but I mean, he's literally been my best friend forever. So going away to school, living on your own with your best friend, playing college baseball, and you have the same last name, and it honestly doesn't get better than that. I was bummed we only got 1 year together.
Okay, so I pulled this, I stole this from the internet, admit that, and I think your answer just now will help us eliminate this a little bit. But just for fun, let's go back to this. And you must have done this while at Grand Canyon, and it's 2 truths and a lie. And might as well just have some fun with this. I have 9 family members. I went skydiving on my birthday, and I slept with my first baseball bat. We know the first one's the truth. 7 siblings. So I gotta ask, which is the whether you want to say which one's the truth or the lie. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, those that know me and that have been around my personality, they know I'm a diehard baseball guy. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. And when you're a young kid, you do weird things. And I 100% slept with my first baseball bat. But heights are just not for me. So
I was gonna say no skydiving, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say I jumped out of a plane at some point in my life, but like, I don't know if I could bring myself to doing it, but I think it'd be something cool, but I'm not a big heights guy, so it would bother me a lot.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. I would not be able to do that either. All right, let's talk a little bit about your time there. You went there, and right away as a freshman, you were right in the starting rotation. Whether I don't know if that was a weekend starter or maybe you got all the Wednesday games, but and then you made all 4 starts before the shutdown in 2020, and again 16 games, 15 starts for Grand Canyon last year. Talk about your jumping into Division One ball, playing in a pretty good conference against some pretty good teams, and then kind of your progression to last year when, as we've got on the scroll on the bottom, 10-2 with a 2.60 ERA. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, my success early on was a testimony to our coaches at the time. We had pitching coach Rich Dorman, and then obviously head coach Andy Stankiewicz, and our recruiting coordinator Greg Wallace. And they always preached to us from the first day we were on campus, hey, if you're good enough, you're going to play. I don't care if you're an underage freshman or if you're a 7th year like PhD major, like getting your PhD. It didn't matter who you were. If you were going to help the team win, you were going to find yourself on the field. And as a young kid, that I'm sitting in the classroom when we were having that meeting, and I was getting chills because you're looking around the room and guys got beards and guys got like, they're full grown men. And I was just turned 19 years old and I was 165 pounds or whatever. I was like, you really think that if I'm just putting up good numbers, I'm going to play? And like, so that kind of lit a fire underneath my butt to say, hey, you can go out and play if you really want to, like if this is going to be true. And from the very first day, like I took the approach of I have nothing to lose. Like, let's go out here and just leave everything on the field. And I mean, that's been my approach my entire life. And it's really helped me just surrender the outcome of what bad can come out of this and just wipe the slate clean and say, you know what, there's nothing bad that can come out of it. Like, my bad day is giving up 5 runs at a great university while on scholarship. So there's really no such thing as a bad day. And from my very first batter I ever faced at Grand Canyon was the reigning WAC Player of the Year, Quinn Cotton. So from the first pitch I threw, I said, wow, this is college baseball. I'm facing the best hitter in our lineup at the time. And I'll never forget that at bat. But after, like, once that year went on, you just get more comfortable. And we had a great senior class that year. I think there was 12 or 14 of them. There was a lot of them, but they had all been there. They've been through the trenches. They went through the transition period where they weren't even eligible for playoffs. So they had those scheduled games and they were done. And my first year was only our second year being eligible for the postseason. And those guys wanted nothing more than to get to the NCAA tournament. And they understood that, hey, maybe these younger guys can help us get there. And they took us under their wings, and it really helped me hit the ground running when adversity, like not only first pitch of the year, but when adversity struck. I remember my second outing of the year was at TCU in Lupton Stadium. So that atmosphere for me, I was shell shocked because I just went from watching those guys play in Omaha basically every year I was in high school to, hey, now I'm starting against them and let's go to work.
Right.
It didn't go as planned, but it was a good learning point for me because it helped me understand that everything isn't going to be peaches and cream throughout college baseball. I mean, I was starting on Saturdays as a freshman, which you rarely see, and it just helped me not take that for granted. And then that year it didn't end how we wanted to, but I got 92 innings or whatever it was, and I got to take the summer off and rest up for that following season. And we got a new pitching coach that coming year, and his name was Blake Hawksworth, and he pitched in the big leagues. So I don't know, it hurt to lose Coach Dorman, but I was excited to get back to work, especially coming off of a solid year. And then started the season well, and COVID hit and just ruined everyone's plan. And I was supposed to go to Cape that summer, and that ended up not happening at all. And then COVID got figured out. you come back to school. I'm now a junior. It feels like just yesterday I was a freshman.
Right.
And once again, we got another pitching coach. So I'm 3 for 3 on pitching coaches in my college career, and I've played one in a third season. So that was definitely a struggle, but all 3 pitching coaches were so instrumental in my success and being able to have real conversations with them about, hey, this worked for me with that other guy. Do you mind if I bring that into my game this year? Or like, I know you preach it this way, but do you mind if I alter it a little bit because I had success over here? And just being able to piece the best information together and make I guess the best version of myself possible, that really helped me hit the ground running in the spring of 2021. And I really challenged myself. Like, we had a great pitching staff last year, and there was a solid group of guys that said, hey, we understand that this is our draft year, and we want to go as high as possible and basically sign for as much money as possible, because that's everyone's dream. But we really challenge ourselves to not talk about the draft and show up every day and work as hard as possible, because we don't there's no certainties anymore, especially with what was going on in the world. We didn't know if we were going to get banged a weekend game because of a positive COVID test or what was going on, but we just took it day to day and played every day like it was our last, and we ended up winning our first conference tournament, and I mean, we made history for Grand Canyon.
No, that's fantastic. Now, I'm going to kind of go against what you just said and ask you about that draft process. And maybe you and your teammates didn't necessarily talk about it, but I mean, that is a big factor in your junior season. Were you talking to a lot of scouts? What was that process like? Was Coach Stankiewicz kind of shielding you to some degree, or were you just kind of on your own?
Our coaches did a good job about bringing us in and saying, hey, there's guys asking about you. Like, people are, your name's being thrown around, yada, yada, yada. This guy wants to talk to you after the game. Here's this guy's phone number. And I mean, as a junior, you're getting excited. Like, hey, these guys are actually talking about me. I mean, it adds a little stress, but I mean, you're playing college baseball against another team. There's already stress in the air. So, right. Like, for me, it honestly just fired me up a little bit more to say, hey, I need to go out and pitch good every day. Like, whether I'm playing the last place team in the WAC or we're playing Oregon State on a Friday night. Like, for me, it really kept my mind on every pitch I throw is important. And Coach Stankiewicz, Coach Wente, and Coach Wallace, they really had respect for me as an individual and understood that I was able to compartmentalize where my feet were, and whether I was off the field, they respected me enough to say, hey, yeah, you can go talk to Pierson as whoever, the Cardinals or the Brewers, and like I was able to have those conversations, and they understood that come game time, my focus was going to be on winning against Sac State or winning against UTRGV or whoever it was. Like, that was the most important thing to me, not what the scouts were thinking or how hard I was throwing or whatever it was. So really, I guess it's just the coaches really understood who I was as an individual and respected me enough to give me that freedom to make my own decisions and talking to those scouts and whatnot.
That makes sense. So let's go to the draft day, which of course is a 3-day thing. Drafted on day 3, round 14 by the Twins, as obviously we know at this point. But were you hearing any rumblings of maybe late day 2, or was day 3 where you were expecting, or what was kind of the lead up to that day?
Yeah, leading up to the draft, I mean, you're FaceTiming teams, you're talking to every area scout and their brother, and you're fielding phone calls, and it's exciting. I mean, it's an exciting time because, I mean, I wasn't playing summer ball at the time, so I was really just working out, staying ready to go, hoping that I would get drafted. But if not, I was going to be moving back into Grand Canyon and focusing there. But fielding phone calls was, I mean, it's one of the best times of your life because it makes you feel important. It makes you feel valued. I mean, there's not soul on earth that doesn't love to be valued. So that was just an amazing experience in and of itself. But come draft day, I mean, day one was not an option. So we were just watching to have fun and see what guys I played against when and whatever. But when when day two came around, I mean, I thought there was a big possibility from what the scouts were telling me that there was hey, we may take you middle to late day two. And we were fielding phone calls, we were fielding texts, but I mean, as you know, the draft is a business and teams are trying to save money and get the best talent for as little money as possible. And I never understood that fully until the draft came and you're getting texts in the 5th round for $10,000 or whatever. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to pass on that one. I'd rather go back to school. I get it. It's the 5th round, but baseball doesn't mean that much to me. I can go get an education for more than that. But day two comes and goes, and yeah, I was a little bitter about it because everyone wants to go in the top 10 rounds. It just sounds cooler. But after day two, yeah, I was bummed out, but I went to the driving range. I remember because I went to the driving range. I was like, I need to go be on my own for a little bit. So I went and hit some golf balls, was putting a little bit, and I started fielding some phone calls from teams that were like, hey, we're going to take you tomorrow. We just need to figure out when it's going to be. And that was kind of I guess just it lifted the weight off my chest of, oh, this hype of, hey, you're supposed to get drafted. You're supposed to get drafted. Now you're not drafted. Like, what's going on? And I mean, as much as you don't want to say, oh, I should be drafted, to some degree, every guy thinks they should be drafted. And I mean, for some, it's like, yeah, you absolutely earned it. But for others, it's like, hey, maybe you're just not built for professional baseball or whatever it may be. But day three comes around and started around 11. It went right by, and I was like, oh, I didn't get any phone calls. That, like, hopefully it's not like yesterday or whatever. But rounds 12 and 13, we started fielding phone calls left and right, and we were talking to the Twins in the 13th, and we just couldn't come to an agreement on a number. And so 13th round comes and goes, and I'm talking to the Yankees, the Athletics, the Brewers, the Mariners, and we settled with the Yankees for the 14th, and we hadn't heard back from any other team. So the Yankees were like, hey, we're going to take you in the 14th. I said, sweet. I'm excited. Like, let's get to the pick so we can actually see if you guys mean that. Yeah. And then Baltimore, same thing. And so we were expected to go in 14th, but those teams were later in the round, and we're sitting around watching the TV, and the Twins pick comes up, and we'd already not come to an agreement with them. And we see my name pop up on the screen, and we're like, what? Like, it was honestly like, it was shocking because we were waiting for the other teams that we had talked with. But to see my name on the television underneath the MLB draft logo, that's something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And like, it's a dream come true. I remember from 7 years old on, I was like, I want to be a big leaguer. Like, that was the dream. I want to play professional baseball. I wasn't a big school guy, so I never dreamed of playing college baseball. I dreamed of playing professional baseball. And come to find out, college baseball was 3 of the best years of my life. And those days I'm never going to forget either. But when that draft day came around, it leaves you speechless almost.
Hey, I'll be honest. I still don't understand why the Mariners took Alex Rodriguez instead of me with the #1 overall pick in 1993. So amazingly, I decided to go to college after that. But no, again, we're joined here by Twins draft pick in 2021 and pitching prospect Pierson Ohl. Hopefully, we won't take up too much more of his day, but certainly appreciate having him on. Again, if you are watching live, and there are a few of you, please feel free to leave a question, a comment, and join the conversation. Okay, so you get drafted. Was there any, you mentioned that you couldn't come up with a number in the 13th round with the Twins, but was there, I guess, #1, who was the area scout that you were kind of working with and deserves the credit for getting you drafted and signed? And secondly, what was the conversation, even if it's just going on in your head or maybe with your family, in making that decision of whether to sign or to go back to, like you said, a really good school and a really good education for one more year?
So the area scout was Andrew Ayer of the Twins. I didn't get a chance to build a great relationship with him leading up to the draft, but we had talked a few times. So, I mean, I was familiar with him.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, the conversation was there. My time at Grand Canyon shaped me to who I am as a person, and it was a hard piece to let go of because of how serious those relationships were with the coaches, the players, the staff. Like, I mean, I'm back here now when I don't have to be, and it's so fun to be around. The atmosphere at the school it's incredible. So it really felt like home for the last 3 years, and leaving a piece of yourself somewhere when you don't have to. I mean, it's a tough decision. So coming to an agreement with the Twins when we first got picked, we still weren't set on a number. So like the possibility was real of me going back to GCU for a fourth year. Um, but as days went on, my agent is getting involved with me as well, and we're talking back and forth. We're negotiating. He's informing me of what's going on, and he's in my ear. Hey, we're gonna sign. Hey, don't worry about it. Don't stress. This is my job. My job is to stress. Your job is to play baseball. So he was an amazing help in that department. But I mean, needless to say, like the possibility of me going back to school was up there because of what kind of people I was coming back to. It wasn't like I was going to go back to GCU and just dog out another year and go find a 9 to 5. Like I was going to come back to my family and they were going to welcome me with open arms and we were going to go win another WAC championship. And I mean, I was excited for that, but also my dream was to go play professional baseball. And I've done what I needed to do in college baseball to get to that next level. And I felt like I was ready to go start my pro career.
For sure. And as you can see from the photo that I believe I stole from your Twitter account, you did sign. You were in Fort Myers at the complex there. Talk a little bit about, the actual signing and, kind of those first few weeks of adjustment. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning, you'd already thrown 100 innings at GCU. So pitching innings wasn't, I don't think, the priority necessarily last summer. You did get into one game, and that's great. But for you, what was that? Whether it's a month or 2 months that you spent in Fort Myers, what was the biggest adjustment there for you? And what kind of things were you doing?
The day to day was play catch, work out, work on your mobility, get your body in the best position you can possible, whether that's working on hip mobility, shoulder mobility, just pure strength, whatever it is. We kind of had assessments every week on finding our deficiencies and attacking those areas. And that wasn't something that was new to me because of the staff we had at Grand Canyon. Like our strength coach was a big leaguer for multiple years with athletics. So I've been around professional coaching before. But the biggest change for me was the day-to-day it doesn't involve a team aspect where college is, hey, we're all in this together. These are the only guys we have. We need to make the most of this, and we need to make each and every one of you sync up and I guess just field the best team really. Where in pro ball it's, hey, how can we get Pierson Ohl to his peak potential? Forget all of the outside factors. We were worried about your curveball, your fastball, your changeup, and that's it. That's your only focus, Pierson. You don't have to worry about making sure your teammates are on time or making sure you show up to weights on time. Like this is your career now. You really narrow your focus to yourself. And like as selfish and as prideful as that sounds, like I mean that's what this game is. It's a group of individuals playing together as a team, and that individual part really starts to show once you sign that contract, because it doesn't matter if you guys win that day. If you give up 5 home runs, but your team scores 7 and you got pulled in the third, like those are your stats that you're being evaluated on. So really realizing that I have to show up every day and find that mental capacity to say, hey, I need to get after it today. There's so much freedom in professional baseball to do whatever, to wear whatever, but to carry yourself as a professional human being is another thing. And that's really what's challenged me the most. And that's something that I'm going to try to just nip in the bud right away and hit the ground running when spring training comes and challenge myself every day.
And one of those other things that you don't have to worry about is going to classes. But I do want to ask, what was your major? Were you able to finish in 3 years, or is that something you're gonna potentially keep working on or working toward?
It's funny you say that. No classes. I attended Spanish class a few times in Florida, so but I mean that's just when I want. Yeah, it's definitely needed. I mean, if you're a young ball player and you're watching this, I would definitely catch up on some Spanish if you want to play professional baseball. But yeah, I was able to finish in 3 years at Grand Canyon. I got my degree. I was communications with a minor in marketing. I had a sports management minor as well. I was doing a double minor, but I really let that go after my freshman year when I realized I'm living the sports management lifestyle. I'm playing Division I baseball. I'm living the schedule that people are making in the sports management world. We're giving fans tours of the stadium. We're hosting recruits. Like, we're doing all of that stuff that sports management people create. And so I let that minor go just because it was extra work that I didn't need to do. And I said, you know what, if someone doesn't hire me because I don't have a sports background, I mean, shame on them. I've put myself in a spot now in professional sports that I've been around sports to understand what goes on and what needs to happen. And yeah, there's a few behind the scene things that take place that we don't always see, but I mean, we're pretty quick learners. So I dropped the sports management minor. I've thought about getting a master's at some point. I think it'd be just an accomplishment in and of itself to say I got a master's degree. Don't know what it would be in, but yeah.
Well, hopefully this baseball thing will last a while, and you'll have some time to figure out what you want to do after that into the future sometime. All right, so you're a pitcher, and this seems like such a weird question to ask this late in the conversation, but I have to ask, what do you throw? What are your pitches? What are you working on? And when things are going really well, Pierson Ohl is on the mound and things are going well, what's working? What does that mean?
So my repertoire right now is fastball, changeup, curveball. The fastball is a four seam. I learned this when I was out in Florida. I'm a north-south guy, so my fastball has true carry and it rides, and then my curveball is 12-6, and then my changeup has really been my bread and butter. Like that's what allowed me to pitch in college and be so successful, and that's really what's taken me to this next level of professional baseball. But when I'm in my zone and everything's clicking and we're working on all cylinders, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's times when you roll out of bed and you just can't miss, and there's times when you roll out of bed and you're like, "Oh, I need to get some ground balls early, or I'm gonna be in trouble." But when I'm on all cylinders, it's the changeup is I'm just moving it bottom of the zone, or I'm leaving it out over the plate and letting them roll over early, or I'm burying one and they're swinging right over the top of it. Fastball command, that's something that I really prided myself on, and the day-to-day showed that I was able to control my fastball, whether it was a bad day or a good day. And what separated my elite outings from my good outings was being able to flip that curveball in for a strike or bury it when I needed to. And I think one of my best outings in college, I ended up pitching backwards to most hitters with curveball instead of changeup because my former pitching coach was on the other side of the fence, and I'm sure he had a little bit of an understanding that I was going to try to throw changeup after changeup after changeup because that's what I did when I played for him. And I kind of put a little chip on my shoulder that day and said, you know what, you had me when I was a freshman, but I'm a junior now and I'm a different player. Um, and I remember that outing like it was yesterday. And I mean, it was one of those days where I just woke up before the alarm and I was ready to go. So
That's awesome. Again, last couple minutes here with Pierson Ohl, Twins pitching prospect. If you do have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them. We do have one that's queued up. But before I ask that, I just have to ask this. I mentioned earlier this year last year at Grand Canyon, you're 10-2 with a 2.60 ERA, but in 103rd innings, you had 103 strikeouts to just 12 walks. And the year before that, you had 17 strikeouts to just 1 walk. You mentioned your command, but obviously your control is already elite. I mean, is that something that was, I guess, pushed on you, or is that just a natural thing for you?
it really came naturally because I never had coaching throughout high school on pitching. Like I played for Chucky Fick and he was a big league pitcher, and we talked pitches but not pitching. Like we talked about mentality, we talked about how to hold pitches, but we never
Mhm.
said, hey, we need to do these mechanics, or like I never did drill series or whatever it was, until I got to school. But I mean, at that point, I was already an established strike thrower, and that was my profile. I was gonna come in and I was gonna fill up the strike zone until they came out and got me, and that was like I took that upon myself because I didn't throw 93 as a freshman in college. I threw 85 to 87. So I had to figure out how to get guys out, and that was moving my fastball in, up, down, and around the zone, and pitching off of that. And as I progressed through college, I found a few miles an hour here and there, and that, I mean, it just makes everything play up. I mean, guys that throw
Yeah.
95, they can get away with missing more. When I was throwing 88, 90, I couldn't. I had to be fine tuned, and I really had to stay within myself and not try to gas people up and miss over the plate because it's an average fastball. So I really challenged myself to say I'm gonna get ahead early with my some of my best stuff, and then I'm just gonna go from there. I'm gonna work on the edges, and I'm not gonna give you a chance to leave the ballpark.
Yeah, it's a good distinction again between control, which just means not walking people, and command, which means hitting spots, hitting corners, hitting the
Mhm.
bottom of the zone, hitting the top of the zone. Um, did you go to instructional league, or have you been back to Fort Myers since the end of last season?
No, so after the draft, they flew us out, and we spent 3.5, 4 months out there. We finished the regular season basically just as practice players, getting to know the organization, getting a feel for what the life looks like, and then we stayed for fall instructs, and that was 4 weeks long. We played a bunch of inter
Okay.
squads, and we got to
Yep.
do that, and then they sent us home for the off season.
Okay. And so you're well, let's just get to this question here. I assume somebody but I could be wrong. From Peyton Ohl, which I will assume is a sibling, what is your main goal or focus heading into your first minor league season?
I mean, I think this is a goal for everyone, but it's so relevant as a pitcher, and I think that's staying healthy throughout the entire season. We see guys go down all the time, and sometimes it's unavoidable just because of the mileage we put on our arms and the work we put in. Uh, but I mean, I guess I, I was told in high school that my best ability is my availability, and if I'm not able to pitch, then there goes my best ability. So, Peyton, to answer your question, I'm going to be doing everything I can. I'm going to be staying disciplined to keep my body in the best position possible.
And be sure to call home every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peyton, thank you for the question. Really appreciate that. Last couple minutes here with you, and we kind of covered the gamut as it relates to baseball. But I believe you made the comment when we were chatting yesterday that you're heading down to Fort Myers next week. Camp starts in just a couple of
Mhm.
weeks. Um, probably be good just to get acclimated to being down there in the academy, in the facilities, on the fields. You just, in general, have to be really looking forward to that, right? I mean, I'm just envisioning, and I'm trying to live vicariously through some of you minor leaguers, but you haven't been through a full season. Just imagining what's going on in your head as far as, number one, what are you going to do? Number two, where are you going to go to start the season? And hey, where will you be at the end of the year? I mean, just so much can happen. So what are your thoughts, I guess, heading into your first spring training? Just high level.
Yeah. For one, it's now like when you get to Division I baseball, it's the best high school players. And now that we've played Division I baseball and we've gotten to that next step, now it's the best of the Division I baseball players or the high school guys. So there's no time to sit around and say, you know what, I'm just gonna go easy today, and I'm just gonna go through the motions. So I mean, it's a dream come true to be reporting to spring training. As a kid, you always see pitchers and catchers reporting first spring training game since 2022 or 2021 or whatever it was the previous year. But to be flying out on an organization like the Twins and showing up to camp and putting the MLB logo on the back and the Twins logo on the front, I mean, I don't think it gets better than that. So if you're a ball player and you're not excited about that and you're not anxious and you're not getting goosebumps, I think you're in the wrong profession, because it's literally the most exciting thing ever.
That's great. Last few minutes, and I've got a bunch of questions that always pop into my head at the end, of course. So let's kind of maybe try to lighten you around this so you can get back, or at least maybe your brother can get back into his room and do whatever he needs to do for the day. The technology side, you get down to Fort Myers. You mentioned that you've seen some of that information, but talk a little bit about your background with that information. How much was new to you? How much did you use before? And I know you said that, working on the rise that your ball gets, how much of that were you able to learn about yourself just from your time down there?
I learned a crazy amount about, excuse me. I learned so much about my pitching profile when I was down there. I mean, our pitching coordinators are so educated on, I guess, pitchers really and their profiles and how to maximize their potential and their pitches. But yeah, I realized that my fastball has plus carry on it, which shout out to my roommate in college, Nick Hansen. He always told me, he goes, dude, it looks like your fastball is rising when I'm facing you. And he said that from the first time he faced me to the very last time. And I never understood it. I was like, interesting, that it might just be because I throw a four seam. I didn't understand it. But now being out in Fort Myers and throwing on like all the technology that we have out there, I realized that I'm a plus carry guy, and I really need to pitch to my strengths in the top of the zone. And I mean, my whole life I've been down in the zone, so it's a bit of a change for me. But I mean, the numbers show that guys with that kind of profile are successful up there, and I want to be successful. So my job now is to get the ball in the top of the zone with my fastball. And then understanding, like getting instant feedback on pitches, where in college you can throw a bullpen and there's no technology, and you'll throw a pitch and be like, oh, that felt good, but like there's nothing to prove it because there's no batter. Right. It's just a catcher like, hey, yeah, that looked good pitch, whatever. But now I can go throw a pen and I get a text from the coaches that says, hey, we're gonna have a meeting in 30 minutes. Let's come talk about it. And all the numbers are there. And we can say, hey, you know what? This is a good changeup, but that's not. It may have felt good. It may have looked good, but in reality, that's probably a double in the gap or whatever it is.
Or maybe it was good and you know that feel now.
Exactly. Like maybe you throw one that didn't feel good, but that's the best one you threw all day. So you try to get instant feedback while you're out there on the mound, but being able to have those meetings one-on-one with the coaches and say, like, we got film, we got the numbers, we got everything. So that aspect of baseball is really exciting for me because I've never had it. So being able to take that into my first year of professional baseball and really try to maximize myself as a pitcher, I'm beyond excited.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, I do have a question here from JD Cameron on Twitter. He's going to be taking some notes during this interview and talking and putting together a nice profile at Twins Daily. It'll hopefully be available on Thursday. But he did ask about your pitch mix, which we've covered. But he also said, are there any influences or players that you model yourself after?
Yeah, so for an influencer, for one, I mean, he was a big leaguer at the time, but I had no clue who he was. My sophomore year at Grand Canyon, our pitching coach, Blake Hawksworth, really opened my eyes to like being, I don't want to sound like a stereotype, but just like a mental warrior out on the mound and not letting the little things get under my skin and being able to not be better than other people, but not letting other people be better than you. I think that was a quote from Juan Soto. He said, I don't think I'm better than anyone, but no one's better than me. And really, I guess, really carrying myself to a standard that may seem stupid to other people about the little things of the game, like the way I set my shoes down, the way I wear my hat, I the way I do everything. Blake Hawksworth was really an influence in my life of, hey, be the most disciplined dude and have the best approach to the game, whether you're getting absolutely lit or you're throwing a complete game shutout. So he's been a huge influence to me. But a guy that I model my game after, going off that mental side, Max Scherzer, he wants the ball, and you better bring a knife if you're going to take it from him. And
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I love watching him pitch for that reason alone. Like, you see guys, I mean, no knock on big leaguers because everyone had to go through adversity, and they're mentally, I think, the strongest people on this planet. But you see guys not as fiery as Max Scherzer. And yeah, he's one of the best pitchers to ever do it, but it's not an accident. Like, Max Scherzer's not faking it in any way. That's who he is. And he's one of the most entertaining dudes for me to watch. And I love that about him.
All right. Again, I could keep talking forever, but I'm going to limit myself to literally 2 more questions, and then we'll let you go. And I will force myself not to let anything that you say create a follow-up question. So the first one is just in the Twins organization, did you know anyone heading into it? Had you played with or against anybody, whether in high school or college or anything?
Yeah, so Johnny Lovelay, actually one of our draft picks as a pitcher, I played with him, I think the first time we were 5 years old, and we played on the same travel ball team up until high school. So Johnny and I have probably played 500 games together. So we had been friends forever. My dad was our coach, so we got family ties there, and it was insane because we're both from the hometown. We played at the same little league, and here we are again reuniting with the Twins. So that was crazy to see it come full circle from youth baseball to professional baseball. And then we picked up a catcher, Noah Cardenas from UCLA. I never got a chance to play with Noah, but every year in Little League All-Stars, it was our league was SEMA Youth, and theirs was Heart Baseball from Valencia, and we were the 2 top dogs. And we would see each other basically every tournament in the championship game. And when you play each other over and over, you start to get familiar with people. And I mean, Noah's an unbelievable guy, and it was super cool to see, because he went to UCLA out of high school, so it's a prestigious university. But to end up me, Lovelay, and Cardenas all in the same spot, I mean, it's super cool to see.
That's fantastic, and probably created about 5 follow-ups that I'm just not going to ask. I'm going to leave you with one follow question or final question, and that is, obviously you mentioned it earlier. You got to get away from baseball. You got to let your body heal, rest, all that good stuff. So when you're not playing baseball, what are you enjoying doing? Whether it's hobbies or travel or video games or TV or time with family, what are some of the things that you enjoy away from the game of baseball?
I mean, most people call it a hobby. I think my family would refer to it as an addiction now, but I love the game of golf. My brother and I got up this morning and we went and hit golf balls before I hopped on this call. But if I could be on the golf course every day, I would. It started when COVID hit. We got sent back home. My brother and I, we didn't have our own clubs at the time, but every dad has a pair of golf clubs sitting in the garage, and they haven't moved for 10 years or whatever. So we were sitting around just like everyone else in the country, and we're going through stuff. We're trying to find something to do. We're bored as heck, and like we love to compete, so we needed to do something. So we dig up these golf clubs, and we're like, hey, let's go hit some golf balls. And we went and played this little 9-hole par 3 course, and it was an absolute blast. We went back the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and then we just started going to the putting green. And we would show up with just a putter and 2 balls in our hand, and we would putt for an hour and a half, and we'd go home. And just I mean, now that I'm a pitcher, I'm so thankful that I found the game of golf. But I don't any chance I get a free time, an off day, whatever, I'm trying to find my way to the golf course, and then it's been awesome.
That's fantastic. Definitely appreciate that. And as a dad now, even though it has nothing to do with anything, I also have some golf clubs in my garage that, other than once in a while going out with some of those plastic balls and hitting them around the house a few times, that's about how much they get used. But yes, Pierson Ohl, thank you so much for your time. Again, I think beforehand I said I'd love to be 30, 35 minutes, but told you it's probably more likely to be more. And it has been. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate, even getting away from your golf game for a little while. Maybe you can get back out there. But hoping to get down to Fort Myers and meet you in person. But with everything else, just good luck and have a great first season. And it'll be interesting maybe to talk to you after the year to see what happened. So thanks again for being on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Seth.
All right. And again, thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back tomorrow at noon Central Time with another guest, another Twins pitching prospect and 2021 draft pick, and possibly working on maybe a Friday show as well. But we'll definitely be back strong with the Twins spotlights here over the coming weeks. So again, thanks to Pierson Ohl and all of you, whether you're watching Twins Daily Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. This will be on the Twins Daily podcast, wherever you get podcasts shortly, and on the video pages of Twins Daily. So without further ado, thank you so much. And of course, go Twins.